Hello, my name is Lalit Kumar, and in this video, I'm going to show you how we can use CRUD operations with ASP.NET Web API. So, basically, when we talk about CRUD operations, we actually talk about those four database operations, which are like add, edit, delete, and update. So in web APIs, basically in RESTful web APIs, we have similar HTTP methods which are called get, post, put, and delete. So before we start, let's go through some of the code which I have laid out for this demonstration. So here in this solution, I have these many projects, and this project, last one out here, is my web API project. And in this project, I have this person controller, and this is basically API controller. You can see here, this is API controller, and then it has got all the four methods that are required to do CRUD operations at database side. So here you can see we have get, which will basically be used to get the data from database, and then we have put, which will post, sorry, this will be used to add a new record at database side, and then we have put, which will be used to update a record at database, and then we have finally delete, which will be used to delete a record in database. So this is the API controller, which will be called from the UI page. So here is my UI page. In here, I'm using Kendo Kendo UI Grid, which actually has got very good features of providing very nice layout of having these CRUD operations defined in the data source section of it. So you can see here, this is data source section of this grid, Kendo grid. I'm in this example, I'm using this Kendo grid, but you can use any data grid control of your choice. I'm comfortable with this, that's why I'm using this one here. So in here, we can see that we have this read method, which will basically pull the data from person controller, and then we have update method, which will use put to update a record, and then we have destroy is basically just to call the delete at controller, and then finally we have this post is going to uh, send a new record for creation in database side. And then this is how the grid is laid out in jQuery. So I'm using this grid at UI side. You can see here I'm providing this my API URI, and then it's hitting this person controller for each and every method. So we saw this UI page, and then we saw person controller. Now I have manager class, which is basically nothing but kind of provides me the data from database. So in here you can see I have this method in this interface, which basically gets me all the data from person table, and then this method adds all the adds a new person to the data. This is used for update, and this one for delete. We have another method in case we need to pull a particular record by ID. So in this, basically I'm having a data context, which is entity framework data context, and then I'm running these link queries on the data context and pulling, adding, updating, deleting data. aspect. So this is my manager class, which is actually doing database operations. So and then I have this person entity defined, which has got these many fields. So this basically is mapped with our data table in database. You can see here, this is our person table, and it has got these columns. So I have simply mapped all these columns in my entity here. So this is mapped out here. Now I'll show you how we have defined this entity framework data layer stuff. So if you are familiar with entity framework, then you must be knowing that we need to create EDMX file, which basically gets hooked up with the with a data store, and then you can keep on adding all the objects from database like tables, views. So here I have added this person table out here, and since in this lecture I'm going to cover only CRUD operations, so I don't want to talk a lot about entity framework. So but yeah, you need to have some basic knowledge of entity framework in order to have this demonstration running on your machine. So yeah, that's all about data access layer, which is basically a entity framework implementation. And then this is my business layer, business person class, where I'm talking to database. Then this is my controller, person controller, where I have all the CRUD operations defined. Now since we talked about how we have laid out the code, now let's go ahead and run this project. So since this is my web API project, so I'll set it as a startup project, and this is my first document which is going to be run. So this is the startup document. Now let's run it. So basically this web API as of now is hosted in IIS. So I'm not using dev server here or IIS Express. It is directly hosted on IIS. You can see here uh, it tried to pull all the data um, for this grid. So yeah, so it is getting hooked up with this table. Now we have two records in this table, so we should see all these two records in the UI. So I put these breakpoints just to make sure that the calls are being made properly. So this is the read call. It is going to read the data from database. You can see it's come in data manager class, where I am actually calling link you queries on the entity framework objects. So now it's actually doing a database call. So it has returned the collection of persons. So you can see here, maybe let's see if you can see the list here. Yeah, it's not evaluated since it is JSON formatted. So let's hit F5 and see what comes in the grid. So you can see these two records which we saw in our database are displayed on UI. So this is the first method, which is basically read method to pull the data. Now we have another method, which is post. So post is basically adding a new record. So let's go ahead and add a new record here. So let's say person ID equal to 3, and first name is John, last name is Smith, and then let's copy this date of birth. I haven't done the date formatting here, so that's why it's showing like this. But if we do proper date formatting, then it will come properly. So now I have added a record in the grid. Now let's update it on our database side. So I'll say save changes. So now you can see it's coming for the post. That means it is going to create a new person entity. And that's the data which we provide. Now let's debug it just to see how it is going. So it's coming to add a person in the manager class, and it is now actually adding it, saving changes on the database side, and it's returning it back. So now you can see this record is added in the grid. Now let's see whether this record is actually added in database side also. So I'll just refresh here. So now you can see this record is come out here. So we have seen two methods. One is to select the records, another to add the record. Now let's try to update a record. So say this is my second record, and I want to update it. Say updated, and then I have done the changes in the grid. Now let's say save changes. So you can see now it's coming to the put method, which is basically used for add. So it is saying that this is the ID which need to be updated, and this is the entity which need to be updated. So this is how it's going to be. So now let's press F10. So it's updated and it's come here. Now let's see in database whether it is actually updated. So this is the record which we try to update. Yeah, we can see here it is updated. So this was the update method. Now let's try delete, which is the last method of all the CRUD operations. So I'm going to delete this record. Let's say delete. Then it is asking for the confirmation. I'll say yes, deleted. So this record is basically gone from this grid, but actually it's not deleted from database yet. So we need to hit this save changes, and now this delete call will be made by the controller. Let's see. So you can see here it's come to delete, and then it's going to delete the record with id equal to 2. Now let's go ahead and see whether it's deleted. So grid is refreshed again. Now let's go to database. This was the record which we deleted. Now let's see if it is deleted. I'll refresh the table. Yeah, you can see the record with id 2 is gone. So this is how you can use CRUD operations with ASP.NET Web API. So this is the whole thing that you need to understand. You need to define these four methods here and map these four methods out here in your data control, so that these four methods are called respectively, and then you can have a manager class out here which will do actual database operations. So I hope you understood how we can do CRUD operations with ASP.NET Web API, and thank you very much. That's it for this video. Thank you.